Welcome you all to SUG Kolkata. Thank you very much for your joining, for your time. Good afternoon. Today we have Nelson with us. He is two-time Sitecore MVP. I hope you all know about him. Today he will discuss with us regarding the modern implementation with .NET Core in Sitecore XM Cloud. Nelson, over to you.
Hey everyone, thank you Kaushik. Thanks for inviting me for this webinar. So yeah, I'm very happy to present here in Kolkata. So let's dive into the ASP.NET with XM Cloud. Okay. So the agenda for today's session is let me share my screen. Okay. So before that, as you guys know, I'm Nelson. I'm just working as a senior solution architect horizontal from Dubai. Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you, right? Okay, you can hear me, right? Okay, fine. So yeah, the agenda for today's session is first we are already using Next.js in XM Cloud. So is there any way, as a .NET developer, is there any way for us to do programming for XM Cloud in .NET, and what is the possibility for that one, and what is the advantages, as well as what are the features which is not implemented till now. So if you want to go with the production ready app, okay, something. Apart from that, what is SDK is readily available, which is provided by Sitecore. We can see that, and we can see some of the renderings and model bindings. So how we usually do with the TypeScript with Next.js, similar way like how we gonna do with ASP.NET rendering host. Okay. And also we look for the content resolver again. People are most familiar with content resolvers, I hope so. If you are coming with so Sitecore word with JSS app, so you guys already have worked with the content resolvers. So all the content resolver will function exactly the same. So so it will not have any problem. So we can see how that is actually working. Then there's a tunneling option which is also available. So we can see that one. And finally the demo. Yeah. So if there is any questions, we can discuss on that as well. Yeah. So now what is ASP.NET Core for XM Cloud Sitecore, right? So I think if you guys already worked in Sitecore JSS app, okay, so they already have a support for the XP environment, right? XP XM environment with JSS app. So usually it was JSS rendering app which is available for .NET. So but for XM Cloud, that particular thing is not supported. So recently Sitecore has implemented they actually reuse the same code base. So in the background, it's using the same ASP.NET rendering SDK only. Okay, so they updated a few features on top of it to support the XM Cloud world. Okay, so if you're already familiar with the old .NET Core SDK, which is supported for XP, we're gonna use the same thing but with a little updated given from the Sitecore in the GitHub repository. Okay. So that we can use that one, and we can consume the layout services which is provided from the XM Cloud application, and we can do the model binding in our ASP.NET Core application. Okay. And basically again here also we are going to do the same thing, exposing the layout services and accessing the content through the GraphQL client only. So all the things are taken care by the NuGet packages, which is readily available for us to incorporate here. Okay. And finally the model binding. So model binding is also straightforward, as I told. So we will see how the existing implementation has the model binding, and how can we leverage that one to have any new components that we can add it here. Okay. This is basically the request response which currently used for ASP.NET Core. So basically, basically if you request, so basically what will happen, so it will has to go to the ASP.NET Core application. So by default, if you have IAS or something, or it's up to where we deployed, right? So by default, it will be ASP.NET Core doesn't need an IIS based first of all, so it's an open source. So basically, first it will goes to ASP.NET Core. Okay, from there it will try to fetch the GraphQL. So basically, if you look into the code, okay, so there will be a use Sitecore rendering attributes will be there. So I will show that right now. So using that attribute will be the key entry point. From there, it is actually getting all the data which is needed for the pages which we're trying to load. So if you're trying to communicate with the home page, or you're trying to communicate with any other pages, so by default, the route is actually by default there will be only one route which is called index route, but internally they are actually resolving the particular URL as well as the site which you need to target. Okay, so basically if you have a multi-site environment, right, so in that case in Next.js app we will be having there's a JS app name as right now reason it is changed to site name, right? So we need to specifically update that site name, so then the actual site will load, right? So here also the similar configuration there, but we no need to do that as well. So first this use rendering will this method will do like identifying the correct site, and then it will load the proper page on all those things. So let me quickly show that exactly what I'm trying to say. So if you go to this default controller, which is the only controller right now available by default, which is comes out of the box. So if you could see, this is the only control which is mapped here. Okay, so basically this is a default control which is by default mapped. So all the requests will be only derived through this action method only. So this is the attribute which I'm trying to say. This attribute is responsible for fetching the layout service response from the XM Cloud. Okay, so basically if we are getting the proper data, then it will go through this method whether we having a data or not, and finally if we have a data, it will do the model binding here. Okay, so it will returning the view for us. Okay, so this is the responsible for everything. If you gonna use about page or contact us for any page, this is the only entry point for the application. Okay, so if you want to debug this one, like what exactly internal working behavior, so we could easily go to the Visual Studio options, and we can enable the external I think you guys can, sorry, not this one. So you can able to see what exactly happening to the external libraries as well if you have, but so if you go here, yeah, you debug. Yeah, just remove this one, so it will try to decompile the DLLs, which is NuGet package, which is used here, and it will try to help you to understand what the existing code it's going on. Okay, so finally once we get the layout service response, okay, so basically all the layout service response will be coming from the experience edge, but there is option whether we want to get it from the preview environment, or we can get it from the edge URL. So there is one in Next.js app we will be having I think most of you guys are already familiar with the edge context ID, right? So the same context ID which is introduced in the recent twin. Before it was a API key, so now we use the edge context ID, so we can use the same context ID over here as well. So that will try to communicate with our edge endpoint. Okay, so yeah, so so as of now, like Sitecore actually provided as the starter kit. Okay, so as I initially mentioned, like ASP.NET Core, the SDK support available for XM Cloud with each is update to the existing ASP.NET Core rendering SDK. So this is the previous rendering SDK which is used for XP environment. So now with this new update, we can also leverage to use the for XM Cloud as well. Okay, NuGet package is very easy to use. If you don't want to use this ASP.NET Core application, that's a GitHub repository. We can easily use our NuGet package directly, and we can create our application. But if you guys are thinking about like ASP.NET Core application is common across console application, Blazor application, or different kinds of application, right? So are we gonna use the same the DLLs or whatever the NuGet packages in Blazor app or something like that. As of now, practically it is possible, but realistically no one tried that one. So we are exploring that one, but maybe later soon there is a possibility to have it in a Blazor app as well. Again, by default, .NET Core will support all the application by default, so maybe some configurations need to be updated, but something Sitecore is actually looking into that. Yeah. So these are all the GitHub repositories which we can use to get started with our application. So the first one is the starter kit. This is we can just download it and just configure the H token ID, and if you have any editing secret or the site name, by default if you set it that on, so by default this will start working for you. And the last one is the SDK. As I told, if you have any want to check how the internal behavior of the NuGet package is working, so we can get into this SDK, and if you have any bugs, if you find any bugs or something you want to report, so this SDK is the right place where we can report all our bugs, and this will be also counted as our community contribution as well. Okay. So rendering and model binding options. So as you could see, like I'm just querying here with just a layered service query. So I could get all the responses here by default. In Next.js, like you will be using the Next.js component with the TypeScript. So here also we will try to manipulate that thing, but with the help of the .NET Poco classes. Okay, so we will be creating the Poco classes, and we will map the individual fields accordingly. Like if you are created any rich text field in Sitecore, if you created any checkbox field in Sitecore, or if you created a text field in Sitecore, we can easily able to map this particular thing, so that the value, whatever the value which is available, we can easily able to get the value from there. So but take an example. If you are trying to customize any of the component example, right? So which is not which say for an example, you are creating a content resolver, right? So but if you want to customize it with your own JSON response or data which you want to give, in that case we can't use the provided options, okay, for the mapping. So where we will be using only the string instead of the predefined classes which is available to the mappings. Okay. uh, okay, so by default we are the 4 ways to bind the components to show in the UI, so which is view component and model bound view component, partial view component, and default partial view component. Okay, so most probably, like most of the places, if you see, like almost every places we will be using the model bound view component, which is like if you want to show any component like accordion or banner or whatever the component, so most probably we will be always using uh, the the model bound view component. Partial view, I hope everyone who is coming from the .NET world knows what is exactly the partial view. So again, this is also supported here. Again, default partial view is again like if some of the component is not there, if you want to show say for an example, I want to, if the user is requesting for some particular page and the particular page is not there, maybe you want to show the particular user with the home or some page with the default component or something like that, some error component or something like that, right? So in that case, the default partial view will be helpful for you. Again, this all the components are already been configured in our GitHub sample itself. So I can quickly show all those configurations. In a second. Yeah. So you could see, like here, this is the place where we are registering. So no, first let's understand like what is this basically. So these are all model boundaries. As I told, we are configuring a model boundaries, which is one way of targeting a component. Here the component is a title component. Exactly the same rendering will be created in Sitecore, okay, as a title rendering, okay, and then a relevant Poco object. So in Next.js world, it's a TypeScript. We will be creating a TypeScript relevant to the object which we are trying to map. So we just want to create our Poco class and that object, and we just mapping it to model bound view. Okay, so if you go to here, this just go to the definition, and we could see like exactly how we are actually targeting these particular fields. Okay, so now before going to there, let's see about this one, hyperlink date field, hyperlink field. So basically there are many different kind of class attributes as available. So using that one, as I told, we can map the content which is coming from the GraphQL. So this will try to map how a hyperlink field, and we can able to leverage and getting all the information from URL or any value and anything. For this is basically for text field, a title location. It will be a custom class, and it will further drilled. If we go here, and it will give the further fields. Okay, so we can create a class field like that as well, but again I can show you more on that. So let me show you one thing to you before going there. Yeah, this is the place I just want to show you here. So model bound view I just showed you. So there is one more view which I told is a default partial view. So as you could see, like we have a component not found. Okay, so basically, as I told, when there is no component, we want to show the user some kind of a default content to the user, right? So I think we can leverage this default partial view, and we can even show the information. And this is the component which will be available here, and we can still show to the user. So give me a second. Yeah, the component not found. So this basically says the component is not available or something. So this is basically a default thing, and it doesn't have any need to have any model sheet that should be binded like how we used for here, right? We actually binded some model here and then the rendering here, but this doesn't need to have a rendering because it's just a default content which we are showing from the code itself. So if you want to map something from Sitecore layout services, then that is a different way. But if you want to provide the static content, that we can use this way of providing the content as well. So yeah. Now we have seen how we are actually using this one. Now let's look into the actual properties and data mapping. So in the previous example I showed, like we have the POCO objects here, and each and every POCO object has a property like Sitecore context property, component property, and individual fields as well, like component fields, route fields, and all things. So if we explore the layout service response, there will be a route parameter, and there will be give me a second. So so if we have explored this GraphQL query, by default, we will be having the route parameter. So in order to access the entire route parameter data, so this parameter we can use. So this all three parameters we can use to filter whatever the data which we want. Again, context property. Again, we should have some. There is a context data available here. So if you want to grab the information from context, yes, we can go ahead and use this context property. Again, components property, route. So we have the individual level as well as there. But again, all the examples has been already given out of the box in here. So let me take an example. Let me take a base here. So I'll show you base model. So this is the base model. If this, so by default, Sitecore, the GitHub repository already provided the base structure for us. So we don't want to reinvent any new structure unless we are creating any custom GraphQL query, like we are creating alias name, or we are creating some kind of a different item query or different kind of a queries. Then we have to touch this the POCO class. I can show an example which I have did, but apart from that, if you want to just use a plain layout query, just want to hit the page and get the layout response, by default we can go ahead and use this base model, and it is actually targeted every individual property over there. So example, like if I have the component property and it's looking for an ID property, ID attribute, right? Somehow we should have an ID as well. If we have the ID attribute here which is mapped, so that ID attribute should come there. Okay, so component name, I think this is again a component properties, right? Cycle component property. So this should be coming from the component itself. So yeah, component name, so ID. So something like that, right? So it will try to map exactly how we want to structure our data. So they already did it. Again, grid parameters, again, this grid parameters basically like if we are using the rendering, so we actually have in the grid as parameters as well. So again, we can easily able to capture those things, component parameters also there, which in rendering we have the parameter options as to pass to the front end, right? So every information, whatever the rendering is supposed to pass to us, and we can easily able to grab it with the help of the base model, which out of the box provided by Sitecore. Okay, and I can show you the response as well shortly. This is the placeholders. So yeah. So let me go back here. So this is how the structure has been created. Now let's talk about the mapping. This is exactly what I'm trying to talk about, like the classes which they already predefined for us. So initially, like I showed hyperlink field, right? So we also have text, image, checkbox, date field, and all those things, and we also have the Sitecore uh, relevant controls as well, right? This above text fields are, these are for POCO objects, and these are for the HTML views. Okay, so if you want to create a POCO object, like if you want to map the content from graph keyword, this text field, all the this still text field, date field, this will be used for us to do the POCO mapping. And site SC placeholder, SC text, I think we are, most of them are already aware of that one. So this is used to create the UI logics, basically whether how to show a date, whether it is editable, how to map the content which we are retrieving from the POCO object. So that this is where this SC underscore dash underscore things comes into picture. So so I can show you quickly about the working of the layout service. How can we see the response quickly? So let me hit breakpoint here. It's loaded already. Okay. So basically, there is if you want, as I told, if you want to drill down to the internal code, we can always go and do that. But I will say there's one thing which we want to concentrate on that. So I will show that. So right now, you see like the site is targeted to site B, which I have created 3 sites so far now. Like so among that, one site is particularly targeted right now, and you could see like it is item path is like slash and language is en. So everything is automatically is going, and this will be uh, um, uh, called against the experience edge, and from there we will be getting a response, and the response is actually provided back to me as a JSON object for me, right? So as I told, this is mapped with the base layout, right? So by default this is mapped, so that's what I'm getting the POCO object properly. You could see like all the POCO object routes and everything is coming back to me, all the fields and everything. Yeah. So structure, placeholders, and all the things. So for us, this is the one place where we can check if something is getting wrong. So by default, if it is successful, then we will be doing the model binding mapping. Yeah. So once you click it, it will load the component right now. Okay. So let me show how basically the model binding is happened. Okay. So first example is that like I created one custom component. Okay, so this is the component I have created. So again, as I told, I have just used the base model, okay, as my where I can inherit all my attributes or properties from the base, and I can reuse and I can utilize here, right? So in this particular component, I'm just targeted to a specific component which is called card component. Okay, I need to grab the information of the particular component name, a description, and just URLs and couple of tags from that component. Okay, so as you could see, like this is the component fields I have targeted to specifically. So this exactly fetch, it will go and find the layout services which is written from the response, and will grab the fields which I have specifically targeted to. Okay, so once I have this with me, okay, what what we will be doing, so we will be creating a view component, right? So let me go to here. So this is the structure basically. So all the components should be under the component folder, right? Under Sitecore component, this is the structure. So if you put something outside, it will not gonna work. So we should follow the structure. If you have any Sitecore component, we have to put all our view file. So technically the view file should be available under this particular folders, which is Sitecore component. So right now, as I told, I have created the card component. So this is the Poco class which I just showed you, and I'm just trying to resolve the data here. Okay, so again, here I'm not using any specific SC attributes here. I'm just directly model binding it here. But again, if you want to go with the SC attribute, yes, we can go ahead with the SC attribute. But if you go with this attribute, it is not editable. So if you're thinking of editing in the page editor, so this will not going to work. So it is necessary go if you want to have a editable functionality. So we need to go with the SC tags. Okay. So let me show any existing example which has the SC tags. Yeah, this has the SC tags here. So here they actually target to the image attribute. Okay, so again, it's a similar kind of data which again component field, and right now they target to image field, so which is again trying to get data from the image field. So it will give all the properties, right? So like source, height, width, and whatever is it. So it will give based on our requirement. So we will be having those information. So this is the SC image tag. Using this one, we can able to modify the content in page editor option. Okay. All right. Let me go back. What else I have? Okay. Okay. Let me go to Sitecore and I'll show. So first of all, think like you guys would have already have the XM Cloud environment, right? So if you think I already have an XM Cloud environment, I already have my GitHub repository of Next.js, which is already deployed in the XM Cloud, but I want to connect with .NET Core application. So you would have, that's what I'm trying to say is you would have already have the XM Cloud running application, okay? But you want to connect that same content using the edge context key and the site name properties in our .NET Core application. Our application will not throw any problem, but the problem is like we're not able to see the data because the way of deployment happen to XM Cloud for .NET will be different and Next.js app will be different. So but for us it's like basically like end of the day all the content is for a person like us, we will think like hey, all the content is already available in Experience Edge. Why can't I access the data from Experience Edge? Because I can still query using the GraphQL query against Experience Edge, right? So by default data is coming from me. It's using the API key or edge context ID, right? So it should return the results for me using .NET application as well, but it will not work. So if you want to execute this application in your local or anywhere you deploy, we need to clone the GitHub repository or our as I told, like we need to do our own code plus the if you want to you need to do your own code plus NuGet package reference. But if you want to deploy to the XM Cloud, then we need to use this GitHub repository, which has the head app and the content authoring app. So that will deploy all the relevant artifacts to the XM Cloud environment. Okay. So I think this is clear. So because initially I also tried the same thing, but like we already have an Next.js app, I tried to connect using the context ID, but it not worked for me as well. So here in this example, I have created 3 sites, okay, which is basic site, site B. This is the site B site which we are seeing right now at the moment. So I already created this 3 sites as well. So basically, I'm keep on saying like the context ID and all those things. So this is basically the edge context ID. So so these parameters will be already given for empty. These are the empty parameters which is given for us. But what I can say, like if we have access to the admin portal. So if you have access to the admin portal here, so basically like what we can do, we can grab the information from the admin portal, the context ID and everything, and we can add it into this particular location. That's the only one change we need to do. Rest by default everything will work. Okay, you could see there is a default site name which no need to be there. Okay, if you put the default site name, what will happen? So there is a difference here. Okay, if I try to put a default site name over in the configuration file, so whatever the default site name is provided, that site will get loaded. Okay, if you're not providing the default site name, what will happen? It will resolve the site based on your domain name. So practically speaking, like if you're trying to deploy this multi-site environment website in Azure, right? So each and every website will have its own domain name, right? So in that case, what we need to do, so we need to remove this configuration by, so these two configurations should be there. So context ID should be there. Editing secrets not necessary unless if you want to do editing. Okay, but for realistically editing secret doesn't need it, but we need to have only the context ID alone. Okay, default site name only needed when you're targeting any specific website and you don't want a multi-site scenario. Okay, but if we want a multi-site scenario, do not pass the default site name. Okay, this is similar to your GSS app name or site name, which is available in Next.js. Okay, and as I told, edge context ID we can grab from this admin portal here. So if we have the admin portal here, so we can easily able to grab those information from. Okay, and let me show you one more thing, right? So yeah, this one thing I just want to inform you at the moment, like if you try to browse the page in page editor, any of the page in page editor, it will not gonna load for us. Okay, example, yeah, it's already an example here, right? Yeah. So this is not that site. Yes, this is that site only. So I try to browse this web page, but this is not getting loaded. But you see this domain name here. This is domain name which I have deployed to this website. I have deployed to Azure. But the ultimate logic for us in Next.js app XM Cloud application, by default, when you try to do GitHub, you're actually checking the code and automatically the CI/CD pipeline is triggering and the deployment is happening to XM Cloud CM, right? By default, internally the editing host will be created. Okay, in XM Cloud Next.js world. Okay, so editing host will be created. So if you go to this particular location, so you could see there is a couple of data available for like settings, services, yeah, rendering was. If you are in the XM Cloud world for as I told for Next.js app, this attributes would be already defined for us, like it's and it should be and it will be read only mode only. Okay, so because like by default XM Cloud is will be automatically creating, but in case of .NET application, when we deploying this the code to the XM Cloud, I'm not talking about Azure repository, I'm talking about to the XM Cloud, right? So we will be we have to create our own editing host. Okay, so which is not configured for us automatically. We need to create our own editing host. So rendering host is different, editing host is different. Rendering host is where your front end application is hosted, which is Azure or somewhere. Editing host is something internal to the XM Cloud where you can do page editing. Okay, so this particular rendering, okay, as of now we have option like whether we need to deploy our code to Azure and provided the Azure app URL over here, and this is Azure app URL which I deployed right now. I have disabled it. Okay, but this is the place where we can add those URLs. So once we add this URL, automatically the site will be editable in page editor mode. So we just load this one and automatically the content will be come up here and we can do the page editing without any problem. So for the first thing we need to do deployment to Azure. Okay, that's very first thing. Now there is one more possibility, right? So I have, as you told me, right? So there is a multi-site scenario, but we don't want to provide the name, right, as a site name. That's totally fine. But but in local, I don't have a different domain name. Even though I have a different domain name, like say for an example, like here my local host /500, right? So I can provide whatever the name I want. I can provide like a local.net one for one site name, one for one site, and I can provide local.net 2 for second site name. But internally, that gonna resolve us 127.0.0.1 only. Okay, so even though we creating a multiple domain names in local and configuring the same domain name over here, in each and every site will have the site settings, right? Each and every site as a site setting. This is the place where we can have our domain name configured. So this is one thing, which is one key thing which we need to follow. So if you're going to do the deployment to Azure or local, any environment, the domain name has to be configured over here. So if you are interested in multi-site environment, okay. So in terms of a local, even though we configuring a domain name like local one site, local site one, something like that, right? So but still this will resolve internally as 127.0.0.1, okay, only. So that means like it not able to resolve the particular site. So I have updated local site one, I had the host entry for this one in my local, and I try to browse this particular URL in my browser. It will not gonna resolve the basic site, okay, which is this site, okay. By default, it will take the first site, because if you're not gonna find any matching here, so by default it will take the first site, okay, or page not found, okay. So the domain name configuration is very important here. But if you have the real DNS name and the site is really available, then that case, that's where I told you, like if we able to deploy to Azure, okay, we will be having a real domain name out of the box. Azure is giving us the preview domain name, right? So we can use the domain name, which I already showed here below. So we can configure the domain name. So use the domain name automatically. This domain, based on the domain name, this particular site will be resolved, okay. So if I put local site 1 in Azure, so this site will be resolved. Maybe if I put local site 2, this site will be get resolved. So the domain name is very, very important if you want to do a multi-site scenario, okay. Now I want to do the same thing in my local. Is there any way to do that? Yeah. So that is where we will be having tunneling options, right? So with the help of tunneling, so we can able to do two things. One is, with the help of tunneling, I can able to configure my page editing mode, okay. So what that means, so as I told, we have an option called tunneling. If you are already using Visual Studio Enterprise Edition, okay, where we have an option for create tunnels, dev tunnels, okay. But I am actually right now, I can create, but the problem with me is right now I have my credential issues at the moment. So as I got locked out with some access issue right now. So but yeah, if you have Visual Studio 2022, we can able to do create a tunnels. With the help of tunnel, this will give us the option for persistent, which will be remain unless you gonna delete it, okay. And we can make it as public. So that means like this URL is uniquely available, and we can configure this URL in as I told, we can configure this URL in here. I think no. Yeah, we can configure this URL here. So this basically try to communicate to your local host, okay. Okay, but again, as I told, it will still resolve. It will still gonna resolve as 127.0.0.1. But what I am trying to say here is, if you want to do page editing, we can use this tunneling mode, so that your XM Cloud environment can try to communicate with your local application with the help of tunneling option, right? Because your local is different place, and the code we deployed XM Cloud is in different place. So this tunneling will help us to do communication between XM Cloud to your local application. So with the help of this thing, we can able to do a page editing mode. And else, as of now, I have not talked about the multi-site thing for the local scenario, but this one way we can do the page editing mode. There is another way which is called ng rocks, which will also help us to do the page, do the tunneling. So ngrok is also a third-party tool which is available. So if we go to online, let me show you cmd. So this is a tool which we need to install. Okay, so basically, like this is the path how we can create a domain name basically. Okay, so right now my domain name is what, localhost 5000. So when we run this application in our local, by default the endpoint will be like localhost 5000 or localhost 5000 once, depends upon whether you are in HTTP or HTTPS mode. Okay, so that is the two URL endpoint URL for us. So if I want to create a tunnel here, right, so what I can just do, I can just do it here like localhost 5000. So I need to run it. Okay, yeah, I think it is created for me right now. That will be fine. So this URL you see, right, this is my URL at the moment. So if I oh, what happened, I think I have not copied. Yeah, so this is the URL, this exact URL I'm trying to asking us to configure in the Sitecore, so that my we can able to do page editing in the Sitecore XM Cloud. Okay, can I copy this one? Is it copied? Yeah, it is copied. Good. So what we can do now, let me see if I could run the application. Okay, it is not. I think I removed it, right? Okay. So see, as of now, see, if you're not able to provide this information, like as I told that the context ID and all those things, like we can't able to run this application. So which is very much necessary if you want to communicate with your site from XM Cloud. So by default, when you clone the GitHub repository code which is provided, you could always able to see this data, which is the default Stakeboard website. Okay, Stakepark website. Where I have added some couple of components, as I told, um, um, like how to create the card component and rendering content resolvers. So everything we can able to achieve over here, right? So right now this is 501, which is exactly this is 500, right? So let me go with 501 now. So I think I have done for 500 only. So it should be HTTP. Basically the site comes with two mode, one is HTTP and one is HTTPS mode. So that is the reason. So let me go with this one now. So see, it's still gonna hit my local host only, right? So it will gonna show me the same website, which is site B, and this is also site B. So same website. So now we can able to configure this one into our application, like somewhere here, right? And if we could able to do the page editing, let's go to pages. Every page is open, right? So somehow it should load. So I think see now it is trying to hit my local. I not did anything, but try to communicate to my local as my endpoint is getting hit now. Okay, so that's how we will be trying to communicate here. Let's see if let me remove the breakpoint. So I think see now the site is get loaded. So initially the site is not loaded, no, but now the site is get loaded already, right? So this is how we are able to do the page editing with the help of this one. But this is with the help of tunneling. But if you are do the real-time deployment to Azure or somewhere, you can directly point your Azure domain name there, and we can be able to play with this one. So each and every site should have, I think, who are already worked uh, before in XM Cloud application. So there is an option where we can change this one. All right. right now I have configured to the default one which is available here, right? So but again, if you have multiple websites and you have a multiple different configuration, different domain name is configured, so obviously you can create multiple rendering host here, and you can even select the individual sites as well. So based on that, we can do our page editing successfully without any issues. Okay, so page editing wise, I hope it's clear. And now let's talk about like how can I go and do the multi-site thing in the local, which is not possible at the local, right? So realistically, how can we do it? Basically, like what we need to do, we need to have a domain name properly. So first thing is the domain name. Whatever the domain name, we gonna create it here, right? So this domain name, say for an example, I'm gonna target this domain name has example. This domain name has to be accessible first. So let's think like example, like I have a domain name here. I don't know what to say. Okay, fine. Okay, like example a, this is site basic site. I'm not creating an actual thing, but I think this is an example. Okay, so I'll show an example. So this is basic site. So right now when I create this one, by default, as I told initially, it will always show me 127.0.0.1 by default, out of the box code which is provided in the GitHub repository. So what we need to do, we need to do reverse proxy. Okay, so if you want to make sure whether my domain is correctly correctly fetching, if in your browser, if I type basic site, so it has to resolve the URL basic site. I need to fetch the content from the basic site website. Okay, so that is how we will be able to do it. Okay, so this particular piece of code which is responsible for this activity, which is the reverse proxy code. So what this code is actually doing, it will basically it will try to get uh, the domain name. Okay, based on the domain name, it will do a reverse proxy. Like it will try to match the domain name from the browser, and it will try to get all the sites which is created for us inside XM Cloud. It's similar, like we who worked with Next.js app, you can familiar with that, right? So by default, all the sites will be get provided for you, and the multi-site plugin is taking care of all the responsibilities. Similarly here as well, we will be getting all the website names, site beat test basic sites, and now this reverse proxy will try to match like the browser domain name along with the domain name of the particular website, and the relevant site will get loaded. As I told, like if you want to get into those much details, try to enable the debugging option and try to get debugged that the particular piece of code as well. So that particular piece of code also available to develop. So this is one place we are configuring the multi-site feature. Okay, if this is not there, the multi-site feature will not get work, as well as there will be um, use multi-site. So this is basically for services registration, and this is the actual one which is gonna do the magic for us. Okay, so with the help of this reverse proxy, we can able to handle the multi-site scenario. Okay, let's go to that presentation. Yeah, now content resolver. So I think we talked about the NG Rocks and Visual Studio 2022, right? So we will talk about the content resolvers. So by default, like if you could see this in this particular screenshot, this is the content. So basically, like again, content resolver is similar like the content resolver we actually used for the JSS app, as well as for the XM Cloud application as well. Okay, so here I'm trying to create a component. Okay, and I am trying to map this particular content resolver to Sitecore XM Cloud, and then I will be getting this particular response in my layout services. Okay, so here in this example, I'm just trying to say like, hey, provide me the title from the data source, description of the data source, and always give me the URL as google.com. Okay, and tags, again I'm hard coded the tag for now, but again if you want to get from the data source, yes, obviously we can able to get it from there, right? So which for the simple purpose or sample purpose, I have created this one. The code, Where is the code? Second. Okay, first let's go to Sitecore where there is a path I have defined. Give me a second. Okay, this is the card component. So I'm just trying to map the content resolver here. It'll be here, this component. Where is it? Oh yeah, sorry, here, sorry, card component only. So I have created this content resolvers. Okay, so which I just showed in the code. Let me go to the same place one more time. Yeah. So this is the code which I have created, which is like a content resolver. Okay. So let me go here and see card content resolver. I don't know, somehow it is got removed. Okay, fine. Anyhow, so okay. Anyhow, let's see. So as of now, as I told, we will be creating the similar content as per this one, right? So I'm just returning here. So let me see. Let me go back to Sitecore, and I can map the content resolver class name and the DLL name over there, and I'm gonna map this one to the project, and I can able to see the data as well. So in the realistically we can see this data here, which I'm trying to say here. So as of now I'm just looking for the home page. This is the home page item, which is 63F. So where we can go here, which is this one, 63F. Okay, so I can do this one more time. So either I'm removing it. So this is a rich text, image, container, and you could see the card component over here. Okay, this is the card component which I have placed over here. The final layout, the card component. Okay, so this card component I have placed it here, and it is actually returning the similar response what I have just showed there. Okay, so this is the hello promo, and you see there is always hardcode@google.com and the content and article which I have showed back there. So by default, when we have created the content resolver and mapping it into the CMS, obviously it will try to fetch the data and provide the response back to us. Okay, and there is one more component which I am just trying to let you guys know. So right now we talked about the content resolvers, right? But there is one more option called integrated GraphQL query, right? So which is this one. I have created the integrated GraphQL query where we have this option to do the query filtration of query, which I am creating the query in the rendering itself, and I want to get the data. So again, this is people are would have familiar with the stuff which is already in JSON, but again these features can also work in the xmcloud.net as well. Okay, so again I have created the sample here, like I'm just trying to get the name of all the children items for the current context item. So my current, in this example, my current context item is the home page. So this is the GQL component, as you could see, and this is actually mapped in the home page only, right? So in the final layout I have the GQL component here, and it is mapped to self. So I'm just pointing to the self data source, which is the current context item. So after the self item, whatever the children's, so I'm getting all the children's data. Okay, so this is exactly it is providing back to me. Okay, yeah, as well as here. So so you could see name, about, copy, data, and all kind of children's I'm trying to fetch it out. So we can even use this way of representation as well. Now as you could see, now I have this data. So how can I map it in the UI, right? So because now this structure is different for me, right? The again example, like this structure, like you have the where is the card component? Sorry, yeah. This card component structure is different, but you could see the other component, the structure would be different. So example, what I'm trying to say here is, Yeah, this one. You see, this is a other component. Okay, rich text editor. You see, there is a difference here, right? There's a text, and you see the value attribute here. But if you see the custom component which I have created, it doesn't have a value attribute here. So if you're already familiar with the GraphQL query, by default there will be two things. One will be the value property, and one will be JSON value property, right? So each and every property which is mapped from site XM Cloud, by it will have a value property and JSON value property. But as of now, I'm creating my own GraphQL or my own content resolvers. It may not have it won't have those value property. So the mapping in the Poco class will be different. Okay, because in this place I can't directly use a rich text editor field or a text field and all those things. I can use only one thing, which is called string field, which is the default Sitecore default .NET representation of Poco class. So here in this contact the card component, as you could see, I actually used the string component instead of using text field, right? This should be the case ultimately, but the text field component is internally try to get the value property. Okay, but for me, like I don't have a value property in my the GraphQL service, right? So that is the reason, like I have no other option. So to grab the data, so the only option is to get a string property. So okay, but once you use the string property, you can't edit it also. So we are not able to do editing. So that's something we should be clear about that. Okay. So this is a GQL component. So as I told in the previous example, right? So again, this is just a sample. It's just a Poco class have created, but again, like we can create a more reusability way. Okay. This is just an example how did it. So as you could see, there's a data field, and you could see the item field, children field, which is actually mapping to this particular thing. Yeah. This one should be, yes, here, field, data, item, children, results. Yeah, it will target into data, and then it will goes to the item, children, results. Finally, I'm getting the name here. Okay, so this is how we have created, and this is not, I'm still gonna inheriting from the base model, because this is the base model where I will be getting all the component level information, right? End of the day, I have to map to some kind of a component over there, right? So if I use the model bound view, so by default model bound view will try to map it automatically for me. So I just need to create a Poco class, and I will provide the particular component name, and automatically if I create a proper Poco objects here, and automatically this will help me to map it. Okay, so this is exactly where I have actually added over here, add model bound view and add card GQL component. This both were the one we just talking about right now. Okay, if you already have if you download this code, by default you will be having all those components has been predefined for us, which has almost all the features has been covered here. So we can easily able to get into each and every code, and we can explore like how the mapping is happening. But it's every component straightforward, so they're going to follow the similar pattern of the model binding options. Any doubt till now here?
Yeah, I can see a couple of questions there, but we can discuss at the end.
Yeah. So this is the last option. Sure. This is the last option. If you want to do the deployment to Azure. Okay. So as of now, like if again in Next.js application, we have the environmental variable local for your local development, right? Similar way here also have a development option for configuration file, and this particular ASP.NET Core environment is very important to make sure like which environment we are targeted. So relevant the app settings will be loaded for you. Okay, so here as I told, these two properties are important. Either we going with a single application or multi-site application. If you are in multi-site application, do not pass the default site name. Okay, if you pass default site name, only that particular site will get loaded. Okay, and this is the Visual Studio Publishing, where I will be trying to connect with my account, Azure account, and I can directly use the Visual Studio to deploy my code. And if you have access to Azure portal, we can play with that. Again, we can manually also do the deployment to Azure using Kudos tool as well. Okay, so either way, this is one way, or you can use a portal azure.com directly, and we can get the artifact from here, and we can deploy over there as well. Okay, so same code. So which is very straightforward. So if I could show it here. So as I told, I have deployed this couple of projects over there, but at the moment I have some credential issues, so that is where I couldn't able to show the Azure app right now. But this is the place which I have already deployed. So this, you could see that this is already published successfully. So basically, if you want to create this thing, we can just create a new profile, Azure, which is our app services. Just go to the app services, click next. Yeah, it will ask for the credentials. Once you get the credentials, it will help allow you to do what resource group you are going to target, and what is your Azure Web App application name. From there, it will get deployed to your Azure. Okay. So yeah, this is again, end of the day, it will provide the site name as well. Yeah, most probably I have covered everything whatever I'm trying to say. So if there is any question, yeah, we can discuss on this now.
Yeah, Nelson, I have a few questions. So the first thing is that this updated ASP.NET Core SDK will it support both the XP and XM at the same time, the same SDK?
Yeah, yes, this is going to work with XM Cloud as well as the old yes, the
XP also, right?
JSON
Same
application.
SDK. Because in
Yes,
this
yeah,
SDK will support XP
yeah,
also.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So again, let me share that. Where is it? Why am not coming out? This one. So the URL is somewhere there, right? Skip verification. So so you could see this description over here. So I would say something to you guys. Like I actually raised one bug couple of months back, something like that. So initially, like these guys, I have the multi-site is actually not working over there. So we have identified that some of the configuration is there in SDK, but it is not in the starter kit. So they recently added that into the starter kit. That's what I'm saying. Like if you guys having any problem or something, we can always go ahead and add the bugs here. One few things like the like there's a drawback, but I can say some of the feature is missing right now, which is personalization feature. Even you can't use sitemap. So example, like if I try to use robot.txt or sitemap.xml, out of the box Next.js application will provide you the sitemap.xml, right? But here we have not having the opportunity options to do the sitemap.xml, but we have to do some custom code over there to load sitemap.xml, right? Again, like personalization, as I told, page personalized audience rules creations, which is currently not implemented in .NET Core. It is they told it is in the pipeline, but again, I don't know, like if you guys already saw my other webinars on mobile application with personalization, so where I have covered the personalization thing through programmatically for through API, okay, through the middleware APIs, okay. So instead of using the Next.js application, right, Next.js is providing out of the box personalization add-on, right? But here we will be manually doing all the heavy lifting from the middleware, and we are actually personalizing using CDP, personalize as well, also with Edge. So we that will really help if you want to do the personalization thing, which is very easy. Like yeah, so if you try to look at that sorry, if there is want to look at that one, please check that the video
And that,
in the
yeah,
YouTube.
Nelson, I got it. And the next one is that, so if you write any custom content resolver, that need to be deployed to the Sitecore XM Cloud instance, right? So how we will
Correct.
deploy?
Yeah, that's what, right? So by default, I have deployed. So basically, you just if you are connected, so it's the process is similar. There is no change to the exit process. Okay, the process will be always the same. So in Next.js world, you are having some GitHub repository or Azure DevOps
In the
repository there
same
where
manner.
you Same manner, there is no change. Only change is that we need to do the clone from the .NET code, okay, which
Okay,
is
got it,
this
got it,
particular,
got it, got it, got it.
yeah.
And the last one is, we should prefer ASP.NET Core SDK or Next.js for this type of workloads.
So
Which
again,
one is
this project is also production ready application only, but again it has some limitation, as I told, right? Like the robots, the site maps, and as well as the personalization, all those things. But something we want to do on our own, right? This will take some time, but the control is on our side, right? Like we are, as a .NET developer, I don't know like how many people are front end here, but again, as a .NET developer, it is easy for us to have full control, and we are almost aware of this technology before, so it is easy for us. But again, in terms of the performance, right? So if you want the faster load of the application, catching mechanism like a SSG, SSR, like that, Next.js is better in terms of performance, right? So it will be very fast compared to .NET Core. So if you considering performance as your thing, and you have the front end developers to do all the jobs, and most of the job is already taken care by Sitecore. It's like personalization, multi-site thing, even your site map and whatever it is. Like they also they keep on doing the Cloud SDK as well there, right? So they actually doing a lot of investment on that area as well. So that is also growing. But .NET Core is slowly introducing the feature. Okay, so this will take time to have the full feature ready. So that's something we need to consider.
And there was one more condition: whenever you create any component, right, in using this SDK, the component name and the view name should be same. Something like that. That condition
Yeah.
was there.
Yes.
Was that
Yes.
is it,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
it still persist or it's changed or it is still
No,
mandatory?
it's the same. It's changed. So that's what I'm saying. Initially, I told, right, the card component over here, exactly I would have created the same rendering in Sitecore as well. So
It's
I
same
would have
name.
created the same name, yeah. But
Yeah.
this is not the one, but maybe here inside that
Yeah.
one is the
Correct.
matter.
Name. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the one. So it's all the concepts are remain the same. So more or less from the Sitecore, they are trying to replicate the similar features whatever they have implemented for Next.js application.
Got it.
Slowly they will come up that level, yeah.
Still thing. Thanks.
Okay. Any other question from anyone?
It is available for Docker and normal deployment.
Sorry, come again, please.
Yeah, Nelson. This SDK available for Docker and non-Docker setup?
No, it is just non-Docker setup only as of now. Like this is just basic tree, so it's not for Docker. But anyway, we can have it for Docker as well. Let me open it.
Yeah, as of now, yeah, actually, for React application, we have the local setup using the Docker setup, right?
Oh,
The
okay.
similar way, do we have the any local setup for the available for the .NET SDK?
No, there is no Docker as of now. But so so this one you're talking about local container.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about the one.
Okay, but I have not explored this on much because like there is no much thing on that. Maybe I'll explore on that next time. I will, if I have opportunity, I have.
Yeah, actually, yeah. As of now, you have shown the content data on the SaaS-based CMS URL, right? But is it possible to set up in our local machine?
Yeah.
Using .NET SDK?
Yeah, right now I showed as a .NET SDK local only, right? So this is a .NET local.
No. The CMS was pointed to the SaaS version, right?
Ah, right. Okay, so you want to point to the local Docker version, right? Okay.
CMS, yes.
Yeah. That's something I have to try, but again, like let me check the possibility of that particular feature is available for us. Okay, let me explore, and I'll provide those more information on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? I believe that's all. Thank you very much, Nelson, for this detailed information.
Okay.
For us,
Thank you.
for the developer, it will definitely help us. Thank you very much, and thank you all for the time for that you joined in SUG Kolkata, especially on Friday evening. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Especially on Friday evening, weekend is
Yeah,
gonna come.
right. We let's all meet in our next webinar, most probably on 7th March. So maybe we'll have Sebastian with us. We are trying.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you,
Bye bye.
everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
Nelson,
Have a nice
Thanks.
weekend.
Bye.
Thanks
for
for the
this
opportunity. Bye bye.
helpful. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys.